Yes, guys, what is going on? Welcome back to another episode of the Adapt Performance podcast. So in today's episode, we are joined by Kieran Wake, who is the owner of Squad Fitness. So it is a facility, but also a group training business. So just to kick us off with a little bit of a stat, just to kind of set the tone for why this type of episode is important. There is roughly an 80 to 90% annual turnover rate of personal trainers in the UK, okay? So 80 to 90% of PTs that have dreams of helping people succeed in their health and fitness journeys don't make it, okay? And I pretty much guarantee it's not because of the skill set, it's because of how they actually approach their business and their expectations of what they actually want their business to look like. And this is where Kieran is an absolute mastermind, and I'm gonna say it, publicly, and he's gonna love me for this, but he's a bit of a genius in this space. So I've got him on the podcast to share his journey with Squad Fitness, okay? Because it's not just about the X's and O's of personal training and group training or anything like that. It's more around how you actually cultivate a culture, okay, and how you actually put people in place and uphold your standards for the brand and the business. So having real clarity over what you want it to be. So if you're involved in the health and fitness space, okay, you need to watch this and listen to this. But also a kind of a push on point. If you are looking to open up a facility, or you are somebody that is venturing into this space, go and contact Kieran, okay? He's given me approval to say that. Go and speak to him, drop him a message on social media. All of his information is below. Meet up for a coffee, pick his brains, because you are not going to get that from anyone else, right? He's also going to be releasing a little bit of a mentorship style thing for people in this space in the future, so keep an eye out for that. I really, really enjoyed this episode. There are so many little nuggets. I always record the specific things as we're going. I write down a few notes of like really hard hitting points, and basically my page is full. So yeah, listen to this. If you enjoyed it, give it a share, let people know about it. It just helps the podcast to grow, right? Cool. Without further ado, this is me and Kieran. Thank you. Yes, geez. How are we doing, Kieran? We all good?
Yeah, all good, mate. Thanks for having me.
You're very, very welcome, mate. And as I said, I'm going to put you on the spot. So what's your favourite biscuit?
Favourite biscuit? This is going to be a bit controversial.
Favourite bicky?
Favourite bicky? Controversial at the minute, but I'm quite partial to Aldi's Wacko.
What's that?
It's like a Rocky, like an old school Rocky. But they call it, obviously they rip everyone off. So,
of course, is it the caramel one, or are you gone for like the actual hard?
I've gone for the hard biscuit. The hard biscuit, yeah. Yeah.
That is controversial. We're having this chat the other day, and I don't know if this is actually realistic for everybody, but I consider Jammy Dodgers a posh person biscuit, really? Because we never had them in school, because they used to cost like £2 for a sleeve, and you'd only get like 3 or 4. That's how it looked to me. So we were a rich tea family, which is obviously pretty shit.
Yeah. Now Wacko all the way for me. Fits my name as well.
That's the first recommendation. Awesome. Right. Cool. Let's do a little introduction for us, mate. So if you could just tell a few of the listeners who you are, where you're from, and what you do, mate, that'd be super.
Yeah, cool. So my name's Kieran Wake, and I'm originally from Rotherham. I'm living in Barnsley right now, kind of right on border, kind of no man's land really between the two. And I've kind of been in the fitness industry now 7 years. Currently owner of Squad Fitness, which is a group training provider. We do group personal training sessions. Possibly you could say like large group training sessions, up to 16 people, but we try and kind of keep our philosophy around, strength training and proper training, and trying to get people who might not necessarily like gyms or feel comfortable in gyms into training really. That's kind of what we do. Other than that, as you know, I've just had, they've just turned 1, so just had twins. So that's taken up a big portion of my life currently, and a big change that I've kind of adapted and gone through. But yeah, overall, just kind of adapting with that and changes in business, not doing any coaching anymore, just managing the business. So yeah, lots of change, and since 7 years ago when I started in fitness industry, but it's all been good and all been positive, and I've enjoyed every minute and every challenge, I suppose.
That's sick, mate. What was the first pull into the fitness industry then? Why are you in the fitness industry and not an accountant or not,
Yeah.
any of the other jobs that are out there?
Yeah, it's a random one really, and one that I won't advise any PT to go down to do what I did. To be quite honest, I worked for Sheffield United Football Club in education, so I was a teacher. So I used to teach BTEC sport, and we had a pot of money to do some CPD. One of my good friends from Envisage, who you know, Adam, had kind of mentioned that they got some funding. So put me in touch with my boss, and my boss was like, yeah, we've got this money to spend. They've got funding. It kind of worked out well. We'll put staff through that in summer. So we did as level 2. And to be fair, I was just getting back into training myself a little bit after not really doing much and not really taking care of myself. So it kind of came at the right time. And I just fell in love with the training side of things. Like, even though I'd gone to university and done sports science, I'd never ventured down the strength and conditioning route or the training route. I'd always stuck to kind of I did morning nutrition pathway. So it kind of just married up really nice. And then I paid, I think me and one other person from Sheffield United wanted to do the level 3. And Sheffield United paid for us because it kind of married up with some modules that we taught. That's how we got around it. And I did the level 3 and just said to the 2 tutors, like, I've really loved the course. It's been brilliant. They went, yeah, you'd make a great personal trainer. And I was like, oh, I'd never actually thought of doing it. And I only knew one other person who were a personal trainer at the time. And she was someone who I went to college with, who I'm still really good friends with, who's still got a really successful business. And I went for a meeting with her and a coffee, and she was like, yeah, do it. Come and work at my gym, which was Lifestyle Fitness at the time in Barnsley, which had a really good reputation for being a good gym and looked after the PTs. And stupidly, I just went to Sheffield United and said, I know you've paid for me these courses, but I'm just going to quit my job and be a personal trainer. And it was just a bit of a crazy off-the-cuff decision, but I just felt I was really enjoying my training. I was really immersed myself in personal training. So I went and shadowed kind of Crystal a few times, my friend, and went in the gym and just got a good feel for it. And kind of she sold it like you can be your own boss. And at time I was kind of getting a bit fed up with education. And it just came as a bit of a mad moment, really, where am I going to be a teacher for the rest of my life? Just kind of going through this cycle of being stressed out, ready for September and meeting all these deadlines and kind of, I love the teaching side of it with the students, absolutely loved it. But the stuff bullshit that went on behind with like dealing with the colleges and dealing with the funding and filling out loads of spreadsheets that were just irrelevant just drove me mad. I just want to teach. I just want to teach these kids. But it became more about other things and keeping other people happy rather than students and ticking boxes. And I didn't like it. And I thought, you know what, I want my own freedom a little bit. And I took the
and that's just going back to your point there. I think that kind of really aligns with my values as well, because coming from PT background as well, being involved in teaching is the thing that I hate most about some of these bigger organizations and institutions is the fact that we're supposed to serve the actual pupil, we're supposed to serve the athlete or whatever, and that's what the institution states publicly. But when you actually get behind the scenes, you see that it's, I'm not going to say corrupt, but you definitely think your values aren't necessarily as aligned as you say they are to the outside. And that
100%.
pisses me off more than anything.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, every learner were worth £9,000 to that college. So, you'd get students on your courses who didn't quite meet the 5C grades that they needed back then. And they'd be like, no, get them on anyway, because they're just thinking about the money. So you'd end up with a student on your course who's not really right and really struggling. And you're giving them as much support as you can. And then you've got someone breathing down your neck saying, why are you not getting them passed? And it's like, well, he only got 3 C's at GCSE. Do you know what I mean? He's doing his best. And they're really putting pressure on that student, and I never liked that. And yeah, it just weren't really about it. Weren't just student focused. A lot of people put these values in, core values of our college and core values of what we believe in, and then you look at it and it's just you see straight through it, and it's like it's just words on a page, really.
Well, I heard a saying the other day, and I think this it sat with me quite well. And it's values are not values until they're actually tested. Until that point, they are just verbal preferences. And I think
Yeah,
that
yeah.
sums it
Love
up. It's
that.
like, it's probably more of a preference, we want
Yeah,
the
yeah,
students
yeah.
to do a good job and we want them to have the best experience. But the thing that always interrupts that is money and budget cuts
Yeah,
and staffing, and
yeah.
everybody's facing the same battles, to be honest with you, mate. So it's not like I could
Yeah,
do
yeah, yeah.
better. I couldn't run a college any better.
No, no.
I'm just more of an armchair fan. I'm
Yeah,
an
yeah, yeah,
armchair
definitely.
fan. So getting into, I guess, squad fitness then, mate. So how did that begin for you? So you did your PT qual. How have you got this? I'm going to say it. I'm going to put it out there, like a really sick training facility and a really well-running, successful group training business. How did it start, and where are you currently at with it at the moment?
Yeah, so it kind of started. I started in a commercial gym, um, and 6 months into that, I was full as a one-to-one PT. After having an initial mental breakdown that I had no clients and that I had a mortgage to pay, I got pretty busy, and urgency kind of tends to do that to you. I literally lived in gym, and I loved it there, but they had again issues from above where the gym had got bought and there were different people coming in and they wanted to change everything. And we had a great group of PTs that kind of did work as a team and we were really good. And I loved that. And it just broke up. And I got opportunities to go work at a local facility close to home. And it was perfect. And I went there and soon enough I was full again. But the same problem with a problem that I see with personal training is that a lot of people wanted to come to me for sessions, but didn't want to train in a normal gym because they couldn't train at
Mm-hmm.
our little facility. It were only open for personal training sessions, so they were paying a premium price to train twice a week, and they weren't really getting where they wanted to be. So I started putting on like boot camp sessions, which were like outdoor at my local cricket club. I did them in community halls. I did them down at our unit, which were pretty messy and pretty unstructured and just as you expect, 16 people in 500 square foot of space. It was pretty mental, but everyone just loved it, and it was
Mm.
just like such a buzz coaching them. And I kind of thought I might have got something here, and everyone wanted more and more and more, but I just didn't have enough time, and I kind of had to make a decision. Again, another leap of faith where it was like, what do I enjoy doing most? And I think it was the group personal training sessions. So I stopped doing one-to-one, or kind of considerably cut them down and offered me one-to-one clients if they wanted more group sessions. So basically, like, do you want to half the amount you pay me, but you get twice as many sessions? And it was like, well, what's the catch? Well, you have to train with other people. Oh, what are them people like? Well, come and find out. And they're all pretty similar sort of people because, I truly believe like your vibe attracts your tribe, which is a bit cheesy, but it's so true. So once they trained together, they were like, yeah, I actually prefer this. And we just created a little bit of a community and it just grew from there. We started off with 9 sessions and a week. And before I knew it, we were up to like 14, 15, and we went from 20. We had 21 original members, so we called them the original 21. And we've still got 5 or 6 of them with us now.
That's cool.
And we just grew it from there, and we just added more sessions and more people, and it just snowballed really into, a year down the line we had 60 odd members, and take it to today, we're 5.5 years old now. We're at 120 members, with his own facility, 2 members of staff, and yeah, that's kind of the journey we've been on with it really.
So that I love that story, mate, and I think one of the reasons why I feel like that sits with me really nice is when I went through my PT qual, one of the things that people used to speak about as like a throwaway comment when you were struggling for work is they were like, oh, you should do a boot camp. And I feel like most PTs have probably tried some form of group training, tried a boot camp, and inevitably it's kind of gone down the shitter a little bit.
Yeah.
Because you can't get the people there. It doesn't feel right. It feels really fake and just not, it doesn't work. So what I'm curious about is how you've managed to take this thing, which most PTs have tried and failed at, and actually turned it into a successful business. How has yours worked, as you look back? What was the thing that made it succeed, do you think?
I think the thing that made it succeed was we had very kind of set values as well. Like we talked about values earlier, but I knew what I wanted it to be. I didn't want it to be burpees and loads of sprinting. I still wanted it to have, coming from sports science background, I wanted it to be proper training. I wanted to look at it and people were doing things that were going to benefit them and make it better. But we also set it up as a business rather than it just being, I'm doing some sessions on side. I think people make that mistake and they don't charge a premium price for it. The charge per session, and you don't get that buy-in from people. So I don't think they get the right clients to start with. Whereas I had 21 people to start who liked me, trusted me, and things like that, and they were getting a great deal. So they were like my biggest cheerleaders and my biggest fans, and they loved what I was doing. Obviously, we set up a squad as a brand, and we made it. We just kind of made it as a little bit of his own little culture. It were different to other things that you saw. It were very. We did things together. We spent a lot of Saturday nights together where we were out socialising together. And I kind of wanted to. One of the first things I ever wrote down was make it people's third place, and I'd kind of stole that from Starbucks where it were like, you've got work, you've got home, but then squad's going to be the third place, and it became that because a lot of us early members were training 4 times a week, and wanting more sessions. And can you add more sessions on a Saturday? Can you do sessions on a Sunday? Can you do, and it just kind of snowballed into that. But I was very clear on like the mission that I wanted to achieve, which was delivering high quality training. So I wanted my training to still be at a high standard where it was comparable to personal training on a one-to-one basis. But I wanted it to be fun. I wanted it to be enjoyable. And I didn't want to just stand there counting reps. I wanted to have a chat with people before sessions and have people stay behind. And I wanted people to get to know each other. And kind of one thing that I love to see, and I still love to see it, is when we walk in our gym and you've got a 24-year-old male, 2 50-year-old women, a bloke in his 40s who loves football, and they're all just sat talking about something random. And, our coaches joining in. And then they crack on and they all get into a session together and start training. And I think you don't get that in many situations. You tend to stick to people of your age, your gender, and stuff like that. And when you get them people come together, it creates a mix of people and personalities. But it's quite satisfying, really, because they're all there for the same reason. And a lot of them are people who don't like gyms. A lot of people join us like, I just hate regular gyms. So we just be like an anti-gym kind of place. Like, yeah, we do as well. When you walk in and everyone's drinking protein shakes with their headphones on and just kind of doing their own thing, that's complete opposite of what we are. We'll chat, we'll have a laugh, we'll, not take ourselves too serious. We're not scared as coaches for us to be at the brunt of the joke. And I think that's something that I did quite well. I got my own personality across and were kind of vulnerable in a lot of ways and said, look, this is what I'm like and I'm not perfect. And it just relaxed people and made them feel comfortable in that setting, I suppose.
And I think that itself it's just echoing what you said there. That is so anti-gym, isn't it? Like being able to laugh at yourself and just take the piss. Because I have a little bit of a bugbear with some gyms as well, and I genuinely do feel like some of the biggest barriers for people getting a good relationship with fitness and with health and with exercise is actually personal trainers themselves. Just the way that they actually approach, I guess, their gym-based personality of being this too cool attitude that's like, and I've seen some horror story examples of this, which, has fully sent me on rants on social media in the past. But yeah, I love that, mate. I love it. What do you think then? So you mentioned culture earlier, and some of your values are around really good training, being a little bit of an anti-gym, a kind of a gym for people that hate gyms. Is there anything else that you've kind of done along these, 5.5 years, which you feel has really cemented that culture piece?
I think a big one is I think treating people as individuals is a big one, because it is group training. So what you don't want people to feel like is that they don't matter. And I think we did a really good job of that. We've done a really good job of that, and we do that through as retention. So we do a report every week That's one of coaches' jobs to do a report on our booking app, and anyone who's not been to a session for 7 days gets a message. Anyone whose attendance has dropped by 20%, so said, they normally do 8 sessions, but they've only done 6 or whatever it might be. That might be wrong maths, but they get a message. How you doing? Can we help you with anything? So we're not letting people just not turn up. Like a lot of gyms, their commercial model is basically get 4,000 members and we'll get 10% of them turning up a month, but everyone's signed into a year contract. And that's kind of not what we are. We're kind of, we'll be on top of you if you've not come into sessions. We'll be, trying to get you back to sessions. We'll be giving as much value as we can to you. If you can't come and you go on holiday, we'll send you a program to do on holiday. You can do as pre-recorded sessions. And I think it's just over-delivering, which people are just not used to. Like they're just used to being a number. We in any business, really, a lot of businesses you're part of don't get that personal touch, and we were very big on that. And I think the other one that kind of goes with that is we talk kind of about no broken windows theory. Like if there is something that's wrong, trying to nip it in bud straight away. And we had that a lot to start with, because you do get a lot of different personalities and different people coming in. And if they're not kind of, acting right, and there's a clash of personalities, or there's people, not respecting other people's, space, or kind of doing things that are not right, it's pulling them up on that. And I think people, as personal trainers, we're a service business, can be scared of that sometimes. It's like, well, they're paying me. And it's like, yeah, but it works both ways. And if you don't address them issues and get on top of that early, you create a poor culture where it's acceptable to just turn up 5 minutes late to session. It's acceptable to, not clean up your kit. It's acceptable to leave sweat on a bench. It's acceptable to make jokes about other people. Do you know what I mean? And we kind of made sure that weren't something that were accepted, really. And I think people respected that because they knew where they stand, and they knew what were expected, really. So setting expectations and things like that is a really big one.
Yes, guys, a brief break in the episode with Kieran. Hope you're enjoying the episode. Just a reminder that if you are not on the Adapt newsletter, that you need to get on that as soon as possible. Okay, so click on the link in the show notes below to take you through to that. What you're going to get is tips, tricks, philosophy, program examples, exercise breakdown. It's just going to make your training that little bit more effective. Okay, it's going to be really quick, concise reads, a little bit of research in there, just to upskill you and just get you in a situation where you feel confident in your training decisions to make you a better athlete and better performer. Okay, so click the link in the show notes below. Thank you. Is the just going back to what you said before, broken windows theory, give us a little bit more on that. What is it?
Yeah, so it's little things, and this is something we talk a lot about with staff. We don't necessarily, it's something we've spoke about in this support group and things like that. But what I kind of call it on is like, for example, if I go in on a Friday and the gym's not as clean as I expect, it's not then just me doing it and forgetting about it. It's the message to lads, "Hi guys, can we just make sure that we're following the cleaning rota, and can we just make sure that this is how we've got a standard operation procedure that's called how to keep the gym clean as fuck." That's basically what it's called, and it's literally a step-by-step play on how the gym needs to look at all times. So the 6:30 session in the morning looks exactly the same as 7:00. Everything's set in the right place, and the floors have been mopped at the right times and things have been put away. So if it's not being done, it's just kind of, "Hi guys, make sure we're maintaining that." And I'm with staff members particularly, we don't really have set rules, we have set standards. We attain to them standards, and they know cleaning, that's what's expected. We have other things such as like a little rule amongst ourselves with coaches that speak to everyone once during session. So make sure you get round and have a conversation with everyone. Remember people's names, remember the dogs, remember the kids, remember the job. All these things, how did you go on at weekend if they've been doing something? All these little things, and kind of just making sure with no broken windows is that if something is not right, it gets fixed straight away, because the theory kind of is if you have one broken window, if you leave it, you'll have two. And if you leave two broken windows, you'll have graffiti on your wall, and before you know it, you've got graffiti on your wall. Then you've got, people leaving it a mess outside and putting cigarettes outside or whatever. So it's just keeping on top of them little things before they become a big problem, I suppose.
Man, I think as you're kind of going through those there, what I kept thinking back to was the All Blacks, and they've released like some commandments around some of their rules around being, one of the best rugby teams in the world and creating a culture and a legacy. And one of them straight away that spoke to me was sweep the sheds. So everybody is involved in that process of just making sure that the environment that we all hold as a home is respected and done well. And I think that's huge. I think the second one I kind of thought about, and you kind of alluded to this a little bit beforehand, was no dickheads. You want to make sure that you've got your tribe, and I think it kind of does. They kind of filter out in the long term anyway. But if you ever had situations where you feel like you've had certain individuals or potentially cliques that have kind of challenged your idea of what you wanted squad to be, and how did you handle that?
100%. And I always allude to this as like Alex Ferguson at Man United. Like, he was such a dominant figure, and Man United was so amazing. But they had the problems where we individuals and people, and that's just not uncommon. And we've had it a number of times. We've only really had to get rid of 2 or 3 people, and that were mainly because of kind of things they've said to people or being inappropriate. And not really understanding what we're about. So we've done that straight away. Like, sorry, it's unacceptable what you did. It don't fit with what we do. We're gonna have to kind of let you go and cancel your membership. And we've done that. We've done that 2 or 3 times because one person, if they're making other people feel uncomfortable, I'd rather lose that person than lose the person, obviously, that we want to keep, really. And I think it sends a solid message out to everyone else. And we've had cliques form many a time, and it does test your coaching and stuff like that. People get comfortable if they've been with you 2 or 3 years, and you're demonstrating exercises to everyone, and they kind of know all exercises, so they're having a bit of a chat. They've not seen the pal for a few days, and that happens, and it's just kind of nipping that in bud and just kind of sending a little message saying, I know you understand all exercises, and I know you kind of know how to train, etc. But there's 3 people on that session who were literally brand new and trying to listen. So can you just kind of keep your mouth shut while we demonstrate, and then you can chat to your pal as much as you want on your rest periods. It's just being clear on things like that. Like, again,
have you
setting standards and, I guess, nipping buds.
So with that then, so that is, I guess, that is a really uncomfortable place for a lot of people to be as the person that needs to be like, look, mate, you're talking while I'm talking. We can't have that because we've got a job to do, and we're all here to get better. That it's kind of conflict, but it's really low-level conflict. Have you always been somebody that's been okay in those situations, those really uncomfortable scenarios, or is that something that you've had to develop?
No, not at all. I would avoid them situations a lot when I was younger, maybe. And even early on in my PT career, you get them people who are just like cancelling on you all the time. And you're like, it's okay, don't worry, it's fine. And you're thinking, oh God, I've just got training to work. I've only got 2 sessions and one of them's cancelled on me. And you have them things where you're like, oh, no, don't worry about it. It's fine. We'll just get you rebooked in for next week. And then you're having to change your whole diary around it. And I see so many people do that. And it's just over time, I think you realise that you've got to be that way. You've got to approach the conflict head on. And it's not, sometimes people actually appreciate it. And I find that way with staff members particularly, is that they like to know what's expected of them, and they like the feedback of knowing how they're doing. So I'll genuinely sit down with them quite often and think, how do you think you're doing? What do you think you could do better? And I'll always give them, just little things like that. So them social media posts in the morning, they've got to go on before 9:30. A few times the last few weeks you've put it on after 10:30. So just make sure you're managing your time properly. Oh yeah, I get it. That's fine. That's cool. And sometimes it's not because, they might have been cleaning, they might have been doing something else, they might just have been unaware, got caught up doing another job. That's fine. But yeah, just letting them know kind of the expectations, and same with clients really. I think people like to know where they stand and what's expected sometimes. And when you do show that bit of authority, I think people actually like it. And if they're done, it's probably time for them to move on anyway. So you're probably just kind of you're getting rid of that delayed problem really that's going to just carry on and persist. So if you kind of say, look, it's time, you're doing things in sessions, or we're not happy with this or whatever, it's probably an alarm bell goes off in there and they go, yeah, you know what, it's probably not right for me anymore, which is fine. Like, that's completely fine, and it happens we in fitness.
Yeah, I think that itself is a really tricky one. And I was thinking back to my journey then, and I was definitely that guy as well. You get cancellations and you're like, yeah, that's fine, that's fine, that's fine. And I guess my question to you after this is your ability to handle those situations head on now a result of you being more comfortable and knowing that, you know what, if it goes wrong, at least I've held true. My mortgage is still going to be paid. If you were still kind of at that, I'm going to call it the breadline or whatever, and you were really needing every bit of money, do you think you would be able to approach it in a separate way because it meant more to your actual livelihood?
I mean, I got rid of members from day one with Squad, and I think it was just because I knew what we were about, and I had a very clear picture on what I wanted it to be. So I always call it negative income. Like, negative income, we try and get rid of that, and that's people who are not buying into values and things like that. So no, I think you've just got to be true to yourself, because if you're not, long term, you're going to end up slipping up. And we've been doing this a long time now, and we've made mistakes in past. Of course, I've made plenty of mistakes, and it's all, if you look at a mistake or an error or a problem in your business, you can always trace it back, and you go, oh yeah, that was the root cause, and we didn't address it then. And I think, obviously, confidence over time and running a business and knowing people and understanding people better, it's a lot easier now. And that's only happened through trial and error, really, in early days. But yeah, I think you can always trace back a problem to its root cause, and it was something you could have done. I think that's taking ownership over it and not blaming external things all the time. It's always something you could have done.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a really good. I think that's a really good rule for life, mate. I've got a book on my bookshelf at the moment. I read it years ago. It's called Extreme Ownership. It's by Jocko Willink. He's like a Navy SEALs guy.
He's a crazy guy.
His personality is very, you must do that. If you look at his Instagram, it might still be the same. He takes a photo of his watch at 4 a.m. He's very much about that lifestyle, the grind. But in that, he basically just outlines, look, you are exactly where you are meant to be. If you're not where you want to be, change it. That's on you. Yeah. And I obviously there are circumstances in your life that you don't always have control over, but I do think that just swallowing the pill of being like, this is on me, I think that's super important. And I think that's kind of what you just said there, is like, this is your business, this is your culture, and you're in control of how it actually runs.
Yeah. Definite. Sure. Yeah, that's 100% right. And that's a big thing, like leading by example as well. Not expecting people to not do the things that you're not willing to do. And another big one with staff is understanding that, this is one that I learned early on, is it's your business, not theirs. So don't expect them to treat it and love it as much as you do. It's you're never going to replicate yourself. And that's hard sometimes as a business owner to understand. But you won't want to replicate yourself. You need some difference. You need people who have got different skills. And ultimately that then leads to having the right people in the right seats. And that's really important for staff as well. And making sure that people are doing the right tasks and they're being themselves, and you're not trying to mold them into you. Because that can lead to, obviously, a bit of fakeness, and people can see through it a little bit.
Mate, absolute gold there, absolute gold. And that leads me on to my last kind of point that I want to speak through. So you're at this point now where you grew Squad, okay? You grew it. You were the guy. You were the man on the ground that people, realistically probably came came for at the start, your personality, vibe, the way you were coaching and getting results. You've now taken a little bit of a, correct me if I'm wrong, a little bit more of a leadership role, a little bit more management where you don't coach as often. You might do the odd thing. How have you found that transition away from it being your baby that you hold close to your heart to now handing off responsibility to people you probably trust? But how has that process been for you? Has it been smooth? Has there been little things that you've learned along the way?
Yeah, it's not been smooth, to be fair. It's been. I think we've handled it really well from a business point of view, but from a personal point of view, and I never saw myself stopping coaching. I always thought that'd be what I thought. I'd always be a coach, and I'd always coach squad sessions. But then there came a point where I just felt it's kind of a humbling experience, really, where you think, you know what, I'm not the best coach for this business anymore. And that's simply because I'm turning up to sessions and I'm thinking about the business. So I'm thinking, Susan's over there. She's only been twice this month. I need to go speak to her and make sure she's okay. I'm not actually thinking about the session that I'm about to deliver. I'm not thinking about the exercises, the demonstrations. I'm not thinking about the rest periods that people need to have, the ability of people. I'm thinking about the business. So I'm thinking, Susan's going to, is she going to possibly cancel? Do I need to have a word with her? I'm thinking, God, is that muck over there on the carpet? Or, I'm thinking all these things. I'm thinking of everything except the coaching. So I will be coming. I was more bothered. I was more like talking to people all session instead of coaching, because I was more bothered about the people rather than the session. And I kind of felt that way myself. And when I brought new coaches in, people were like, wow, what a session. And I'd be like, a lot of the old clients were probably fed up at the same voice and, I'd probably got a little bit stale in that respect. So once I'd realised that, that helped. But yeah, it is like giving up your baby. I remember the first time I brought a new coach in to coach some sessions. It were on a cricket field, and I stood about 20 metres away just watching like a weirdo. And I bet my members felt really uncomfortable. And I know that coach felt really uncomfortable as well. Because he actually said, like, are you just going to do that every session? And I'm like, no, I'm just making sure everything's all right, just in case you need me. And I remember leaving a coach, Tom, who's still with me now, in charge of an evening session on his own for the first time. And I was just constantly checking my phone, like, between sessions, everything okay? And he's like, yeah, I'm just tidying up between sessions. Okay. And I'd messaged members saying, how was his session? What were it like? And they were probably thinking, what's up with this guy? So it is hard. Whereas now I kind of track the numbers, track the feedback of the clients, track the feedback of the coaches, and just have a really hands-off approach with regarding kind of sessions. I don't even plan sessions. I look over at planning. We go through planning and stuff like that, but I trust my coaches and give them full trust in planning and delivering sessions. The feedback that we always get from people is how amazing as coaches are. And that's just giving them a little bit of freedom to be themselves and coach sessions, but within our boundaries of what we expect and what squad is. Because, I've had it before where we've had coaches who are kind of delivering their own sessions. It's not a squad session anymore. So we've got clear systems on what a squad session is and how it needs to be delivered. And, I've had coaches in past who have kind of made it all their own thing. And it's kind of what I always am very clear on is I don't want it to be, this is Kieran's session, this is Tom's session, this is Keenan's session. I don't want that. It's a squad session delivered by that coach. And again, that's just through being very honest with coaches and setting expectations, really. And yeah, I suppose that's how it is. But from a personal point of view, it has been difficult. But I think going back to having the right people in the right seats, if I'm managing sales, marketing, as numbers, all those other things that are important and driving business forward, that's the best seat for me to be in. I've tried it other way where I've had people in charge of sales and as marketing, and it's not gone well because they don't love the business like I do, and it don't matter to them. Like I did a sales call last night at 9:15. That were the only time the woman were available. Like I'll do that any day a week. I don't care. I'll do it at 3 o'clock in the morning if they're going to sign up and join.
Yeah.
I don't expect my
Yeah.
coaches to do that, and I don't expect someone who I'm paying X amount a month to do that. So I think it's just having the right people in right places as well, and just doing a bit of audit on yourself. Like, where are you best served? And as much as I love coaching, I know my best seat is away from coaching, allowing my coaches to do what they do best, and me make their job easier by taking care of everything else, so they can focus on the number one important thing of our product is coaching. So yeah, I think that's how I've summarised it in my head over the years. It's not been
One of
straight
the things
away.
that jumped out to me there, mate, was that the idea that you're not the best person for the coaching at that time, and the phrase that I thought of was "do what you do best and then delegate the rest." And essentially, that's what you've done. You've taken care of your speciality, the numbers guy, thinking about long-term vision. Where are we going? Making sure the coaches are good and letting them just focus on their speciality, which is delivering. And
100%.
I think that's quality. I also thought back to having like the idea of working in the business versus on the business is the other side of it. If you're constantly in it, you might not have the opportunity to really take a bird's eye view and look at things from a Google Earth standpoint.
So true.
Is that something? What do you think? This is such a hard one because I think sometimes we're always super ego. What's next? What's next? What's next? Instead of actually just being really happy with what you've built and being content with, the lives that you're changing and the relationships that you're building. But what do you see as like the next step for you with Squad?
I think I have always been that person. And I just want to go back to the last point as well. I am the best coach. I'm the best coach I've ever seen to do group coaching, by the way. I've never seen anyone deliver group coaching better than me. It's not that I'm a bad coach, but it's that if your mind's not in it, it's like the best football player in the world. If their mind's on something else that's happened, or the mess is worried about his contract, he's not playing his best. But yeah, sorry, going on to so I just wanted to make that point that I am the best coach, but I'm not at the time if my mind's elsewhere. Mine's on the business. So getting someone else in, they'd deliver a better session.
I was listening to a podcast the other day around is a bunch of S&C coaches, similar position to you actually, like a gym owner, doing things super well. And you've got to have that confidence in yourself as a coach because I'd say the same thing. I'm actually the best coach, mate. Not to say that, but I am the best coach. I think you've got to be confident around your skill set, and obviously being aware of where you're not good, and that's what you've kind of analyzed there is a SWOT analysis. But going back to that, what is next then?
I think I've always been chasing like I want a new facility. Then we got that. We want to get to 100 members. Then we did that. I want to get myself out of business and and achieve that. And then you kind of like, what's next? What's next? What's next? And you do get into this cycle of it. Right now, I'm just really happy with where we are, and this is just something that I've never really had before. I've been kind of frustrated, thinking we need to do this, we need to do that. So I'm just really happy with where we are right now, and just enjoying that. And kind of, I had to reflect on that earlier this year that I've gone from a stage of working 60, 70-hour weeks, coaching, business-wise, not having his own facility, not knowing where we're going next, not knowing, we've been in positions where, we had to move out of facilities and we had a month to get a new one. There's been times where we've nearly gone under, plenty of times. Lockdown ruined most businesses and we've survived it all. And now we're in a really strong position where we've got 2 members of staff who are enjoying the job and love it. We've got 120 members, and there's feedbacks and culture, and everything's never been as good. And I'm, a little bit less stressed than I have been in past. So we're in a really good place. So I'm actually not, for first time ever, not in a rush to, open another squad, for example, or get a bigger facility, or go from 120 to 150. Like, there's no actual rush. And it's, for once, I'm actually quite happy to to kind of say that and say, look, we're doing really well at the minute, and I'm enjoying it, and I think everyone else is enjoying it. And I've certainly been in positions before where I've wanted more, and I've got there and not felt fulfilled. That gold medal syndrome, where you're like, oh, is that it? I thought it'd feel a little bit better, or we've got to it and we've probably sacrificed things that we shouldn't have along the way and done things wrong to get there. So yeah, I'm just enjoying it at a minute, and I think from my own personal point of view is maybe getting involved in other people's businesses and helping them grow their group training business. That'd probably be one thing that I'd like to probably go down from a personal point of view.
Nice. Mate, I second. That's really good to hear as well. That the gold medal syndrome, but also just being happy, just being happy with where things are. I think that's a really understated life goal, is just being content with, your life's work. Sweet. I'm going to call it there, mate. I just want to thank you for your time today. That was absolute gold. I know there's going to be so much value in there for people. Off the back of this, I will put all your information in the show notes below. So I'll put your personal Instagram, I'll put squads in, I'll put your website and all that. So if people are looking for, an insight into how it actually looks from the outside, because I love seeing it, because it's different from other gyms. That's the thing, and that's exactly what you said before. It is different, and you get that vibe. So yeah, thanks again, mate. I'm going to stick all that below, and I'll chat to you soon.
Wicked. Cheers, mate.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to the Adapt Performance podcast. Let me know what you thought about the episode by leaving a review or sending me a direct message. I'm all for receiving the honest feedback to make sure the episodes grow and get better and better. Like, share, subscribing and following all goes a long way to making sure the podcast reaches the right people. Thanks a lot. Catch you next time.